Hey, this video is very specific to a subgenre of people. Maybe they won't even see it. I don't know. But this is about esports writing and some tips I wanted to give out. And the reason I wanted to do this was because apparently some of them feel like they're frauds or something. I'm not exactly sure. Or they feel like they're not doing good enough or they want some kind of praise for their work. I'm not really sure. And I'm definitely not the guy to go to if you're thinking that, and I'll explain why later. But I'm somebody who doesn't feel like that at all. I don't feel any of those things. So, you know what? I thought I'd give my own personal experiences, my own thoughts, my own feelings about this kind of subject about writing and all that just because it might help somebody. It might not, but even if it just helps one person, it's probably worth it. So, there's only really two things I'll talk about. The first is about hard work and all that. So, one of the first questions for any aspiring writer is, should I do it or not? And should I do it for free or not? And the answer is always going to be the same if you're going to ask me, which is do it if you want to do it. Don't do it if you don't want to do it. And that's it. Like that's all you need. It's a very simple question. Is it worth Do you have enough interest, do you have enough investment to do it if you want to do it? Then go ahead. If you don't, then don't do it. Go do something else. Nothing is owed to you in that sense. And this is something that has been my motto for the entire time I've been writing. I'm a person who wrote, I'd say 3 to 4 years. Not exactly sure of the timeline, but basically that amount of time for free for Team Liquid and a few other sites at that point. And when I did all of that, before I did all of that, I came to the conclusion, if I, for the rest of my life, don't ever get paid, don't ever get remuneration, don't ever get any kind of fame or infamy or any of that, would I still do this? And the answer is yes, because I like doing it. And because I like doing it, that's really all that matters. So that's the actual question you have to ask yourself is if you are willing to do it without any of the rewards, then go ahead and do it. Though I'd imagine if you were already that kind of person, you'd do it anyway. But by posing it this way, you can ask yourself that very serious question. And this is actually something that was surprising because this exact sentiment was mirrored in Daigo's book, The Will to Keep Winning, where he basically said, now, among all of the times before, now is the time where you can actually make it as a pro, make a career as a pro, make a living as a pro gamer. And he said, yeah, you could do all of that, but he always emphasized the fact that you have to ask yourself, would you be willing to do it without all of that money, without all of that security, without all of that fame? And if you are, then you have the strength of will, so to speak, to deal with failures, to deal with losses as they come, because they're an inevitable part of life, and especially in competition. And so that's my first bit of advice. Do it if you don't want to do it. Don't do it if you don't want to do it, right? And as for, it's also kind of connected with hard work. And I've never really explained my own perception about what hard work is because, there's always a question of hard work and talent. But here's the point, I guess. Talent actually shouldn't matter if you're just trying to get into a field. What I mean by that is there are two scenarios we have here. One is you have enough talent, and you know what? If you work really hard, you're going to find that talent, and you're going to find something that makes you successful. Second scenario, you work really hard, and you know what? Even if you don't have the talent, you'll find you'll be able to do something. Third scenario, I guess there are actually three scenarios here. You work really hard and you fail. And you know what? The third option isn't actually as bad as people make it out to be, because it's going to tell you that you weren't cut out for whatever you were trying to do, and now you can scratch that off your list of things you think you should try to do. Because life is about a journey of self-exploration. It's about a journey of self-expression. It's about a journey of self-potential, self-realization in a sense. And so if you realize, you know what, if put in all this hard work, didn't get what I wanted from it, then you can walk away, no regrets. And I think that's an incredibly important thing because I look around, I've met a lot of different people in my personal life, seen a lot of different people online, seen all these different people, and I feel like the worst of it all is always the guy who had a choice, who had perhaps potential, who had a dream, or maybe didn't have a dream but had some kind of talent and they never fostered it, and then years later they think about it and they regret it. I think that is by far the worst you can do. And you know what? Even if you fail, you're going to have the experience of doing all that hard work, of putting in all those hard hours, and that tool set can be applied everywhere else. For instance, when I was playing StarCraft 2, I wanted to prove to myself that I could do what the pros were doing, so I did 8 hours of practice, 8 to 12 hours of practice a day for about 2.5 years. By that time, I basically burned out because I couldn't play Stormhost. Like, Stormhost was just too much, man. But the point of that is, like, I was able to do it, and now I know I can do whatever the fuck I need to do to grind out anything else in life, because nothing of it was going to be as hard or as laborious as trying to do that. Right? So that's my entire point about hard work and self-motivation. Now, here's the other part about people feeling like a fraud. And the reason I have such a disconnect with these types of people is because we have very different values. And when we talk about the individual, there are, I guess the best way to explain it is the Indian god Shiva. Actually, I forget if that's the actual god. I haven't studied it in a long time. But basically, there's some kind of Indian god, I forget which one, that has 1,000 faces. And each of the face is itself a different kind of god. And it's I've always thought it was more of like a metaphorical analogy of people's lives, of how we have different masks and we have different ways of interacting with different people in different situations, and we put them on, and put them off, take them off, and even though we're taking different forms, as Kobe Bryant once said, different animal, same beast, so to speak. The same substance is still there. All right, but for a majority of people I've met, there's always a tug of war between, and this, I don't even know why I started with that analogy, but basically, there's a tug of war between the individual and, like, yourself and the group, and it's always a complicated matter of evaluation. So what I mean by that is, in Asian culture, for instance, you're highly evaluated by rankings, and this is from the Confucius, like, merit tests that they did way back thousands of years ago, and has now been ingrained into the culture and minds of all of them. So basically, you are highly ranked and evaluated by, for instance, your grades at school, and this is why in Asia they always put the grades up for everybody to see. So you have a kind of hierarchy, so to speak, kind of pressure from society, right? And so this is where I think why people think they're frauds, in a sense, because they hope, or on some level, that they will be praised, that they will be validated by the group for the work or their efforts. I'm actually on the opposite end of that side. I don't actually care at all. Like I said, I'm a person who, you know what, if tomorrow everybody just cut me off, like, for some reason just turned on me, like, oh man, this guy's a shit writer, oh man, this guy, he can't do shit, he's a fraud, whatever, right? You know what? I'd probably still keep writing. And the reason I'd still keep writing, the reason I'd still keep doing it, is because it's fun, it interests me, I like doing it. And you know what? That's actually, in a sense, a problem for when other people try to deal with me, because I don't have the same value judgments as other people. So that's why I don't ever feel like a fraud. So I don't ever feel like I need to prove anything to anybody, because the only person I'm trying to prove something to is myself. The only person I'm trying to defeat, so to speak, is myself. So when I write something, I'm not writing for anybody else. I'm not writing for an audience. I'm not writing to get hits. Because I'm not writing because I get paid. Not really. I write because I, I like it, because I find it interesting, and I write only for one audience, and that's myself. And so, even though like years from now, I still do this. Like sometimes I'll reread my own articles, be like, was this really that interesting to me? Does this really like spark some kind of incredible story, incredible idea, incredible analysis, or whatever it was I wrote back then? I'm like, yes, then I think I did a good job, and that's basically the only judgment I have. It's also why it's also why people get pissed when I miss up typos or whatever, because that's not something I personally care about as much as other people. And I've tried to fix it, but can't be helped. But anyway, that's basically it for this video. So, you know what? I hope that helps. If not, well, you'll have to find the answer on your own. And that's how life always is. See you later.